Jen, where the hell are you?
I am back in Southern California, back at my dad's house. This is my room.
So you're not on your floor anymore. You're on his floor. You're now in your childhood room.
Well, so I bought a little desk for the beach house so that I could get that amazing lighting and watch beach volleyball players while talking to you guys on the air. Because I was right up against the window that whole time. And so I kept a little desk. And so now I have the little desk in my room. So I don't have to sit on the floor.
Oh, well,
I'm a big girl
it takes some
now.
of the energy away, but it is inevitable. They do grow up so fast.
I know. But yeah, I just got back from Seattle the other night, and it was kind of a crazy flight back because I flew from Seattle to Sacramento, Sacramento to Los Angeles. And so while I was on the plane in Sacramento, I saw the alert that the air traffic controllers in Burbank, which is in between Sacramento and Los Angeles, had just fucked off and there were no air traffic controllers. And so we ended up sitting on the tarmac.
Wait, hold on. It was like Rosh Hashanah, or they were striking? What was going on?
So
they're about to miss a paycheck. And so they said, bet, fam, we're out.
Yeah, they're not working overtime if they're not getting paid. And apparently, like, who knows if this is a talking point, but I tend to believe it. Apparently, some of them are worried about missing the paycheck. And so they're taking DoorDash and Uber type jobs. And so they're like, fuck you. If I'm going to do overtime, I'm going to get paid for it. And so there weren't enough air traffic controllers to work in Burbank on the night that I was on a plane.
Air traffic controllers are not considered essential services?
They are, but you can't force them to come to work.
But they're not getting funded as essential services?
No one gets funded like that. So like the military's not getting paid right now either. No one's getting their paychecks starting this week. Okay. So for whatever reason, Burbank couldn't get enough air traffic controllers. And it wasn't just Burbank. It happened yesterday in Chicago. So this is starting to become a real issue. But like, I sat on the tarmac for 30 minutes because they had to redirect flights from Burbank to Los Angeles. So I flew in a situation that was less safe than usual because of the fucking shutdown. And I was pretty pissed about it.
Shutdown update, Jen.
Oh, we made a funny video about that, by the way. I'll send it to you both. If anybody wants to look up on Reason, we've got a good red team, blue team coaches giving explanations of what's happening. I'll send it to you.
Yeah, I'll tell you one thing. If two planes crash into each other when we lose like 500 people, the Democrats are going to sign that clean CR so fucking fast. And like, I might be on one of those planes. I'm flying on Saturday. I'm flying the following Monday. Justin, you don't look like you're home. It's just like
I'm flying tonight.
Yeah, they're putting us in danger. And for what? Like, I can't.
I think so far, though, you know what? Like I was looking at polling. When you look at the polling of whose fault is it that the government is shut down right now, this will astonish you. Republicans think it's the Democrats. The Democrats, complete inverse. It's the Republicans. Yeah. It's almost mirror images. It's like 90 to 10% but the independents, though, in the polls think it's the Republicans' fault more than the Democrats do. So
I wonder whether or not that's just a lifetime achievement award. Because people are just kind of tuning into it because this is the first time that the Democrats have ever done something like this in my lifetime. So I wonder, the other thing that's different is that normally Democratic administrations will just clear out and just make the shutdown the number one story in America. And that is not going to ever be a thing that Donald Trump does. Donald Trump is never going to be like, oh no, this thing that I don't totally control is the number one thing. There's plenty of stories and we're going to talk about some of them here today. But I don't know. I kind of feel like when people start missing paychecks, and Thune knows what he's doing in terms of just forcing these votes every single day and just put the Democrats on the record as being the reason why things aren't open immediately. We'll see. I do think this has gone better for Democrats from a purely politically messaging perspective than I was expecting. But
that's because their messaging is bullshit. Like, can we just discuss the bullshit? Because I have noticed, like, even Jon Stewart is falling prey to this. The Democrats right now are saying that all they want are these Affordable Care Act subsidies. It is not true. If you look at the bill that they are pushing for in the Senate, they want the reversal of the cuts to Medicaid that were made in the big, beautiful bill. They want to limit the power of the Office of Management and budget director, Russell Vogt. They want a whole bunch of shit, and it's all big stuff. And it's like, so they're telling the American people, we just want this one simple thing, but that's actually not true. And I think the reason the polling isn't reflecting the reality is because the American people are so unaware of what the congressional reality is. So, and meanwhile, we're flying in skies that are less safe. It's just
latest poll, CBS News YouGov poll conducted between October 1st and October 3rd, released today. 39% of respondents believe Trump and congressional Republicans deserve blame for the shutdown. 30% respondents blame Democrats more, and 31% blame both equally. So America sucks, but it looks like the Republicans are the ones faring worse from this, at least in that poll.
The first through the third are the first 72 hours of the shutdown. And again, I think if you're just asking people at that point and you're saying, oh, the government shut down, who do you blame? It's like hitting a knee with a hammer, just a reflex, like, oh, the Republicans, because that's who always does it. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, I would wonder whether or not this will fare differently as we go forward. Jen, do you believe that it wraps up by the time that we do another episode?
I don't know. I don't know what it's going to take. If the air traffic controllers are causing more chaos than this. We've already had this happen to 2 airports. Who knows what happens over the weekend? But like I said, if 2 planes crash into each other, this is over immediately.
No, it's done immediately. Yeah.
Yeah. But that's the thing. Like, do 500 people need to die in order to get the Democrats to just fund the government with the clean continuing resolution that they have voted on over and over and over again in the Senate? And by the way, I checked the votes today and those numbers are not moving at all. So you've got John Fetterman and Angus King and Catherine Cortez Masto. Those are the only people on Team D that are voting to open the government with that clean continuing resolution that the House is like refusing to come back until it becomes law. Like, the House is being ridiculous too. But we have those 3 people and it hasn't moved. So that's telling me that the American people are not being effective in any way, one way or the other, in getting these senators to change their positions. So if we don't have Americans die, and if we don't have air traffic controllers refusing to show up to work en masse, I think this could last a pretty long time. So I mean,
if we're seeing air traffic controllers not showing up to work now, I don't know how far into the holiday season they're going to want to push this, because that's going to be a little ugly. Bill Scher, commentator for Washington Monthly, was on PX3 today, as we record this on Wednesday. He says he believes it'll be the longest shutdown in American history, if even just by a couple days. And I think the longest one was like 35 days.
35.
So now I kind of want to break that record just so we can get into the books, do like 36 days, do a proper Cory Booker.
I don't, just because it's dangerous. Yeah, this is not cool, you guys. Like, I know it's one thing to say, but once you go to the airport, it's not great to fly right now. I felt less safe because I know for a fact that I am flying right now in America.
Can I ask? I don't disagree. This is a bad thing. I'm just lightening it up.
I know you're
the
kidding.
Same though. We're all. But with the safety though. I mean, is that true? Is the safety literally compromised? It sounds like what's happening is they're cutting back on plane flights because they're not working above X hours. Not that the quality is dropping, but the quantity is dropping.
They are rerouting plane flights so now some airports are getting a higher load than they would otherwise, because certain airports that were not expected to be out are now out. So instead of going to Burbank, you're going to LAX. But it just means that more flights are going to LAX if they can. And if not, your flight's being canceled.
Yeah. And so that means that like the entire system is having chaos put upon it for no good reason. And like in my case, I'm sitting on a flight that's supposed to go to LAX. Those air traffic controllers are now having to deal with more planes because this last minute thing happened at Burbank. So they're taking in more traffic. We were going over Burbank's airspace. Now there's no air traffic controllers there directing that traffic. So it's just, I know that our system is designed to rearrange things and cancel flights as needed to keep the system safe. So like I said, I'm flying on Saturday. I'm not canceling my flight. But we are causing unnecessary chaos in the system because right now, the Democrats in the Senate could just vote for the clean continuing resolution and reopen the government. Because right now, like what they're pushing for, they're telling the American people that if the Republicans just agree to these subsidies, this is over. That's a lie. That's not what's in their bill.
And
they
by the
want
way,
a lot more than that.
half the Republican Party is probably amiable to them at least doing the subsidies for another year. You know, there is a faction within the Republican Party that wants them to expire because they're Obamacare accelerationists. But there is a political will to do a deal, including Marjorie Taylor Greene, who came out for it.
Exactly. But that's not what's in the Senate Democrats' bill. And so they're lying to the American people about that. That this isn't just about subsidies. They want a lot more than that. So I think that's why this is going to be such an impasse and why the American people are so
And Republicans
uninformed.
will never go for that. You cannot, when you have a minority in both houses, you can't just start demanding shit because that never happens. Like, that's just not a thing that ever goes down.
Yeah. These are very, very big asks. And we're not aware of that as a country.
Okay, dumb question to both of you, our congressional expert and our political skullduggery expert. Who blinks on this one? I would assume that the Republicans are not going to blink because they don't want to concede the power, and also they're less worried about the government saying shut down and giving power to Trump. That doesn't strike me as something that bothers them as much. So the Democrats will probably capitulate before the Republicans, right?
I think so.
The question is more how this happens. Like, the most likely thing. So Jen pointed out that 3 Democrats have voted along with the Republicans so far. They need 5 more because Rand Paul doesn't vote for CRs in the Senate. So they need 5 Democrats, not 4 Democrats is what you would normally think. You need 7 because the Republicans have 53. What is, in my opinion, most likely to happen is 5 Senate Democrats join on to that, and you would start looking at the other senators from the states that have already voted. So the other Nevada senator would probably be the first, and then you pick off a few more down the line, and that is like a rank and file revolt that the base can be mad at, and Chuck Schumer can say, no, oh my God, why'd you do that? But Chuck Schumer does not want this shutdown. He's never wanted this shutdown. He's doing it so he can save his leadership position.
Right. So here's what we're going to do. I'm in D.C. I'm the only person in our group,
in DC
probably the country, who can fucking fix this. So here's what I'm going to do.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to get one of those old-timey 2-man horse costumes.
Yeah.
I'm going to be the front because I came up with the idea. I'm going to get my buddy Mohit. We're going to sneak into Congress.
Yeah.
And then I'll just vote. That's how that works. This is the law. If you can sneak into the Senate chamber and no one calls you on it under capture the flag rules, you were a senator. You get voting rights.
A lot of people don't realize that the horse entrance is not particularly well guarded.
No, people don't. They don't think about that. No one ever thinks about the horse entrance. So I'll just sneak. I'll just look like just an average pony walking into the Senate. No one will stop me. Everybody loves a pony, and then I'll vote in favor of restoring the government.
Do you know that there's a person who actually does need to sneak into Congress? She was elected 2 weeks ago, and Mike Johnson is refusing to seat her.
What?
Yeah.
What?
Raul Grijalva died in office. And so his daughter was elected in a special election 2 full weeks ago.
Yeah.
And Mike Johnson is refusing to seat her. Now, the running theory is because she would be the 218th signature on the discharge petition that would force a vote on releasing all the Epstein files.
Also because he wants to keep the pressure on the Democrats with the shutdown.
But I mean, this is the fun. My storyline is more fun.
So she should, Mohit might be listening. Mohit, no offense, buddy, I'm going to drop you. It seems like I need to do a solid for this young lady. So she can be, and I'm not even going to let her take the front of the horse because she got elected by the people. We'll sneak in.
Is that more
She'll
or
go to
less
the House. I'll go to the Senate.
Got her face in her butt.
Yeah, well, whatever. I'll take one for the team. And she'll go to the House. I'll go to the Senate. We'll sort this. This is easy. But by the time we talk next week, we'll get it sorted.
If I were her, I would be chasing Mike Johnson around the Capitol with a Bible, being like, "Swear me in."
Yeah. All right, real quick. Last thing that isn't on our schedule here. The next governor of California had a bit of a rough interview that went viral. Your girl, Jen, Katie Porter, your thoughts immediately on Katie Porter's moment. If you have not seen the clip, Will, just go ahead and roll at least the part right up until she tells the reporter, "I'm me."
What do you say to the 40% of California voters who you'll need in order to win, who voted for Trump?
How would I need them in order to win, man?
Well, unless you think you're going to get 60% of the vote. You think you'll get 60%. Everybody who did not vote for Trump will vote for you. That's what you're saying.
In a general election, yes. If it is me versus a Republican, I think that I will win the people who did not vote for Trump.
What if it's you versus another Democrat?
I don't intend that to be the case.
So how do you not intend that to be the case? Are you going to ask them not to run?
No, I'm saying I'm going to build the support. I have the support already in terms of name recognition. And so I'm going to do the very best I can to make sure that we get through this primary in a really strong position. But let me be clear with you. I represented Orange County. I represented a purple area. I have stood on my own 2 feet and won Republican votes before. That's not something every candidate in this race can say. If you're from a deep blue area, if you're from LA or you're from Oakland, you don't have an experience.
But you just said you don't need those Trump voters.
Well, you asked me if I needed them to win.
So you don't
I
think
feel like this is unnecessarily argumentative. What is your question?
The question is the same thing I asked everybody, that this is being called the empowering voters to stop Trump's power grab. Every other candidate has answered this question. This is not
correct. And I said I support it.
So, and the question is, what do you say to the 40% of voters who voted for Trump?
Oh, I'm happy to say that. It's the do you need them to win part that I don't understand. I'm happy to answer the question as you have it written, and I'll answer it.
And we've also asked the other candidates, do you think you need any of those 40% of California voters to win? And you're saying, no, you don't.
No, I'm saying I'm going to try to win every vote I can. And what I'm saying to you is that...
Well, to those voters, okay, so you...
I don't want to keep doing this. I'm going to call it. Okay. Thank you.
You know, I was having a bit of a rough evening yesterday, and a listener sent that to me, and I want to thank that listener. It was just a little golden ray of sunshine for me when I needed it going to sleep. Thanks.
Yeah, I can't defend it at all. I like her so much as a legislator. I mean, she was so effective. We know this. We know I'm a Katie Porter fan. Yeah. But that wasn't an out of bounds question. She just seemed like such a baby not answering it. Like, it's such a layup. You just be like, oh, I'm going to represent all people.
I represent everybody in California. And a lot of Trump voters have been misled by Donald Trump.
Yeah.
And I appreciate that there are plenty of good Republicans. And I am from Orange County, which has plenty of... This
I'm going to pull out my whiteboard and show them the facts, because that's what I do. Like, it was such an easy question.
My read on this, I sent this to a friend. This is the face of a woman who's used to being inside of an echo chamber and is now confronted with the external terror of math. That was my read on it, was that, like, because there are sectors in which you're only going to get social credit for saying, fuck all the Republicans, they're evil, I don't need them, I don't want them. But when you're running for office, that's more of an uphill battle to say that. So I think that she got confronted with, oh shit, what if I'm not just going for the primary?
Yeah.
California makes fragile candidates. It's just what it is. They need to be nurtured. They're like flowers, like delicate flowers. They need the right temperature and comfort to bloom.
Listen, in positive news from a legitimate state, Oklahoma, the superintendent of public schools has stepped down. So we've got one less theocratic government, and I am thrilled by this.
Okay. Do you see the Des Moines school board story that they found out the Des Moines school board guy was an illegal alien?
Oh, I think I did see that. He was like from Africa, and he fled, did he not? Like he was on a car chase and stuff.
I don't know the exact thing. I heard half of it. I've been running around for the last 72 hours, but all I know is that I first saw the story in an almost comical New York Times alert, which was he was the beloved school board member, but he had a surprise. So it's like, even in the New York Times headline, they buried the lead in the headline of like Des Moines school board president.
You know what I might start doing
in the country?
What I might start doing as a hobby is running for office in countries I don't live in. Because there's got to be a couple where you could do that, right? So like when I went to Iceland, I had a great time in Iceland. Shout out to Young Americans for Liberty Reykjavik chapter that flew me out there back in 2019. I had a blast. Really like Iceland. Hell of a good island. And like, I was like, I might run for mayor of Reykjavik. Like the last guy they elected was a fucking comedian. Like the government collapsed. He was literally a comedian. He ran, the name of his party was The Best Party. And his platform was more towels, and I promise we'll get a polar bear for the zoo. That was his plan. Like he wasn't running as a real candidate, but like the government collapsed, there was a scandal, and like he was the only guy that was not implicated. And so they were like, fine, you're the, and like being the mayor of Reykjavik, like that's the only city in a country with 300,000 people where the prime minister's phone number is in the phone book. Like, so that's the most powerful place outside the prime minister. And I was like, I'll run. That'd be funny. I'll run for mayor of Reykjavik.
You'd have my vote.
And mine.
Thank you. Thank you.
From the East Bay of California, I'm Justin Robert Young from Los Angeles.
I'm Jennifer Briney.
And from Washington, D.C.
I am beloved Icelandic politician Andrew Heaton.
And we're not wrong on this edition of the program on the problem. We'll talk about what's going on in Chicago, ICE raids, National Guard, and more. Also, Bari Weiss is the new head of CBS News, what that means for her, the institution, and dare I say, journalism writ large. That plus your emails. Let's get right into things, shall we? Members of the Texas National Guard arrived in Illinois this week, captured on video at an Army Reserve facility near Chicago, despite pleas from Illinois leaders to stay away. Texas Governor Greg Abbott confirmed deploying 400 Guard members under presidential authorization to ensure safety for federal officials, end quote. Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker and Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson condemned the move, calling it illegal, unconstitutional, and dangerous, end quote. Illinois and Chicago filed a lawsuit to block the deployment, accusing the Trump administration of using troops as political props. Pritzker alleged the White House is manufacturing chaos to justify invoking the Insurrection Act, citing a recent ICE raid filmed on social media. President Trump said he was not invoking the act, but would if, quote, people were being killed and courts were holding us up. The confrontation underscores mounting tensions between federal and state authorities over militarization of domestic affairs, and it follows many ICE raids in Chicago over the last week, the most visual of which included a nighttime raid of a Southside apartment building using a Black Hawk helicopter. 37 undocumented immigrants, including several the government said were of Tren de Aragua, were arrested as a result. Jen, this is a topic that you wanted to talk about. Should the Texas National Guard be allowed in Illinois at all? And should the president be allowed to deploy them to defend ICE facilities?
No. The end. No. I'm done. It's such a hard no. I'm, obviously I've been very consumed with the shutdown, but this weekend's news was just so out of bounds crazy that I'm having trouble understanding that this is the United States of America. I mean, we knew that Trump was targeting Chicago, the home of Barack Obama, the place that had the Democratic National Convention. Like, he's always had
the
this
Blues Brothers.
Yeah, he's always had this thing about he wants to go into Chicago. And so they actually have a name for what they're doing. It's Operation Midway Blitz. Mm-hmm. And it really
great. Let's use the word blitz.
The ICE operation. That's what you're talking about.
I'm actually not sure what exactly.
That is how I understand the Midway Blitz is the ICE operation, and then what is coming on top of that is the government's response to what they say is blocking of that operation.
Yeah, the martial law of it all. Because I don't know, because there's been so much going on. I'm not sure that people are aware that the reason the people of Chicago were out in the streets protesting is that in Franklin Park, there were ICE agents that pulled over a guy who had just dropped his kids off at daycare. This guy didn't know what was happening. He thought he was getting kidnapped by these masked, warrantless people. And so he tried to drive away and they shot the dude. And so that's why people were out in the streets protesting. ICE has been so violent. And then they raided this apartment building. So let's put ourselves in this situation. You are in your bed. It is 12:30 p.m. It's in a 5-story apartment building. ICE shows up in a Black Hawk helicopter, has their agents rappel onto the roof, had people go in through ladders into the windows. They went into the actual apartment building. If you didn't open your door right away, they kicked in the doors. They dragged out damn near everyone who lived in this apartment building and then arrested 37 people. We don't know if they were illegal immigrants. They know that they arrested those people, but they
They say that is what the government says, that they were undocumented.
That's what they say, but we can't actually track these people down at this point. They still haven't come home, so we don't know exactly who they are. There's definitely reporters that are waiting for them to come back to talk to them, but they can't find them. But in this raid, American citizen children were detained. I mean, this is how they are doing this. Like, we have Fourth Amendment rights in this country against illegal search and seizure, certainly of ourselves in our own homes. And so this is just like unconstitutional what they're doing. And it's so clear. And then, so like, that's Fourth Amendment. Now let's talk 10th Amendment, because Trump is also sending in the National Guard of other states, because I actually wrote it down. Title 10, Section 12406 allows the president to send in the National Guard in the case of rebellion, an actual emergency, or if local forces are overwhelmed. We don't have these situations there. And President Trump is just clearly lying. I mean, like, he said that he's sending the National Guard into Portland because Portland's on fire. I flew over Portland the day he said that. No smoke. So he's just lying, and we know that he's lying.
Jen, maybe he's just operating on data that is 5 years old. Like, maybe he's just not updated. Maybe he's going through his email. I'm backlogged, and he's seeing that they're attacking the courthouse back in 2020.
Or maybe he's a senile old man who shouldn't be in power with his current cognitive state.
Are we there now? Are we there?
Oh, we've been there for a minute, but where I am at this point is that high crimes and misdemeanors.
I love that the left is just the right 3 years in delay. It is just MAGA echo. It is so awesome.
Okay, so before we
Justin,
start
I'd
calling
like
me
to go
the
out on a
left
limb here
and
and
MAGA
say,
echoes, like, can we just let me finish talking
I'm
before
not
you
saying
label me?
I'm saying whether or not you are saying that now. That is something that is being said on the left.
Well, let me say what I'm saying before we talk about the left.
Go ahead.
Because right now I am watching things that are clearly unconstitutional. And I know that the grounds for impeachment are high crimes and misdemeanors, which is like breaking the Constitution with multiple amendments in ways that are endangering every single one of us, even if we're sleeping in our own beds. And when I am looking at the situation, like, yes, I have my beef with the Democrats, but where the fuck are the Republicans? The fact that we have gone this far over every single red line and the Republicans seem to still be going along with this. And yes, I do mean Trump voters, because the people in Congress are cowards. And so if they were hearing from it, or if they were hearing from their base, the people that voted for them, because like, I know that there's MAGA people that support this, but I have now completely dismissed them as tribalist crazy people. But there are others, the Joe Rogans, the Theo Vaughns, the KFC Barstool guys, like those are the type of people that all know this is wrong. Those are the people that need to now be calling their members of Congress and telling them to stand up for the Constitution, because we have gone so far beyond what is acceptable. And I guess like that's just where I'm at on this. I'm just at the point now where I don't even understand how our country is allowing this to happen. So there you go. The answer is no. They shouldn't be allowed to do this.
Justin, I'd like to come out in front of this and say, regardless of whether Trump is senile, I don't think he should be in office. I was actually very much in favor of him not being in office well before I thought there were any age-related issues to him.
This is a shocking position from Washington, D.C.
Yeah. Well, okay. So yeah, my position to this is Jen Briney's position minus the pizzazz. So I don't have as much color to put in this, but I agree with my colleague Jen on this one. But let me try to flush this out. When I'm looking at stuff like this, I try to get both a good faith interpretation and a bad faith interpretation. I'm going to wind up on the bad faith interpretation, but let me go ahead and walk through the steps of the good faith interpretation so far. So the statute that Jen brings up, my understanding is that the prerequisites necessary to invoke the Insurrection Act without running afoul of the Posse Comitatus Act is that the government can bring in the National Guard if there's foreign invasion. I do not think any of this qualifies as foreign invasion. If there's domestic rebellion, even riots don't qualify as domestic rebellion, or the inability to execute federal law. That would presumably be the position of the Trump administration. I imagine what they would say is these are sanctuary cities that are not only refusing to cooperate with federal authorities to execute lawful rules of the United States, but that their refusal to enforce basic laws is prohibiting ICE's ability to do its job. I think that is what the Trump administration would say. The bad faith argument, which I think is more compelling evidence, is that this is not a sufficiently large problem to actually require the National Guard. And a far more likely scenario is that Trump is showing muscle for purposes of PR, and that this is stirring up trouble in blue cities, and that this is something that is done more out of politics rather than out of necessity. I think that that's more likely. I say that in part because, as Jen brings up, in Portland, a federal judge, who I hasten to add was appointed by Donald Trump in his previous administration, has put an injunction against him sending in the National Guard to Portland, and has just been very upfront of, she's in Portland, she's looking at the data, and she's going, this is not a situation where there's actually an inability to execute federal law. There are some protesters. It's like one of my friends is in Portland and has been reporting on this. There's like 3 or 4 protesters there. It's not the same as it was in 2020. 2020, I kind of get it, of sending in people to protect courthouses from people throwing Molotov cocktails or whatever. That's not what it is right now. The one in Portland is illegitimate as an illegitimate use of the National Guard as defined by a federal judge who's a Republican appointed by Donald Trump. That to me is very striking evidence that there is a pattern here of Trump bringing in National Guard troops without a necessity to do so. And I think it is far more likely that this is a political stunt, but it's not just a stunt. It is something that is sliding us in a direction that we don't want to go. We don't want to have situations more and more where lines are blurred between law enforcement and the military. It's not a good thing. We don't want situations where we have American troops in whatever capacity patrolling American cities. It's not the country that I want to live in. And where I finally wind up on all of this stuff, I have a lot of friends. I have a lot of friends that don't like Donald Trump, and the reactions are along a spectrum. On one end of the spectrum are my friends that believe that, I personally am in danger of being locked in jail for making fun of Donald Trump. I'm not there. I don't think that is the case. I do not think that we are living in the prelude to The Handmaid's Tale 3 days from now. What I do think it is another step in the wrong direction. Like it's yet another step in a bad direction. The trajectory and the vector is troubling and bad. And when you add up all these steps, it is disheartening. And I think Jen's worries are well-founded. I share them.
Let me ask you this. When it comes to political points, do we find J.B. Pritzker and Brandon Johnson to be good faith actors if Donald Trump is a bad faith actor that is pressing this issue?
I don't know enough about Pritzker to be able to weigh in on him. I find myself rooting for him in this situation, but I must admit that part of that is out of response to Donald Trump. But I really don't know a lot about him. Yeah.
I find them doing their jobs, and I'm actually really grateful for Pritzker. I mean, 10th Amendment, we do have states' rights here, and he is standing up for his states' rights and for his residents.
Okay.
So I like what they're doing. I like that the Chicago mayor is saying you are not allowed to use our facilities to do these illegal, unconstitutional things. So it's politically, I love what they're doing.
So let's take a step before we get to the National Guard. If we are to say, well, let me ask you about this. Does ICE have federal jurisdiction to find and deport people that they suspect to be illegal from Chicago?
Yes.
Provided that they're doing so under the auspices of due process and existent American constitutional protections, yes.
Which they are not. That's the
okay, hold on. Does local law enforcement and government have a responsibility to facilitate that federal action?
No, it does not. You can, if Colorado says we're going to legalize marijuana and we are not going to prosecute it in our state jurisdiction, the federal government can do that. The federal government can come in and it can have federal marshals seize assets and things. There's nothing legally requiring the state of Illinois or California or anybody else to comport with federal law, and that's well established in case law.
So that would be able to do that for an FBI raid? They'd be able to say, no, you're not allowed to execute an FBI raid?
they could not inhibit them from doing it. But yeah, they could say, you're not allowed to use this is our property. You can't do it from our property. We're not going to let you use our courthouse. That's within their right. What they can't stop them from doing is you couldn't block access to a federal building. The police in Chicago could not stop federal forces from going into an ICE center or something like that. But they don't have to cooperate. No.
Yeah. I mean,
also, I want to add to that I think local authorities are. What? Am I not allowed to? What?
Please, no, go ahead.
I think the local authorities, it's their responsibility to make sure that the laws are followed in their jurisdiction. And at this point, we have people who are not identifying themselves, who do not have warrants, who are grabbing random people off the street, who are detaining them for unlimited amounts of time. These are illegal actions. And so I actually think the local authorities not only don't have to participate in this, but in some ways it's their responsibility to protect the citizens of their states and local jurisdictions from these illegal actions. So that's why this is getting so judicially messy.
Fair points. Patreon.com/where not wrong is where you need to go to subscribe to this show.
What was
Justin's
that?
on a mission today. Justin's on a mission. We're blazing through it.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I don't think we might have much disagreement here.
Yeah.
No disagreement, but I do have one more thing to say about this. And it's in
please,
response
go
to
ahead.
something that Andrew said. You mentioned that this isn't a foreign invasion, but one of the justifications for that crazy raid of the 5-story building where they took everyone is that they were saying they were going after members of the Tren de Aragua gang from Venezuela. Mm-hmm. And I do want to tie that to what's going on internationally that I don't think is getting enough press, because Donald Trump has now bombed 4 boats of Venezuelans. We actually don't have the names of these people, according to Senator Rand Paul of Kentucky. He's just murdering people who are being said to have fentanyl in their possession. We don't know if they do. Basically, I've listened to a few podcasts with lawyers who think this is straight up murder. But if you tie all of these things together, they're going after these Venezuelan gangs that they are saying are invading our country. We have Marco Rubio, who is simultaneously serving as our Secretary of State and National Security Advisor. He is a warmonger who has wanted to regime change Venezuela for a while. I think that the bombings of these boats have to do with trying to get the president of Venezuela to react in the same way that Donald Trump is trying to get our cities to react because he wants these violent clashes. I think all of this is kind of connected. And so I think by saying that Tren de Aragua is invading our country and that's justifying the Chicago raids, I think in a way it's also setting up the stage to go to war with Venezuela. And I think we should all
Do we
be
not
aware
believe
of those
that the Tren de
timelines.
Aragua gang is a thing?
I don't care if it's a thing. They don't get the death penalty for being in a gang. That's not
I think
a thing.
so.
I mean, right now they are a declared foreign terrorist organization for which lethal force is
apparently
authorized. Now the
so
question is
am
whether or
I.
not they are on the boat, right? And so I'm not saying that the boat strikes are, but if they are Tren de Aragua, then they are a legally designated a foreign terrorist organization.
And if they had 37 warrants and went to 37 apartments and got those people to come out of their apartments and legally arrested them, then we wouldn't be having this conversation. But that's not what's happening here. They also murdered people on a boat. We actually don't know why. So it's I don't think it matters.
Well,
that
we know
Tren de
why
Aragua
they
is an
say
actual
they
thing.
murdered people in the boat. We don't know whether the people in the boat is the people that they say.
Yeah, we know what they say, but they have no proof. And I think that's a problem. And when it comes to Tren de Aragua being designated a terrorist organization, they've also designated Antifa, which isn't even an organization, a terrorist organization. Antifa stands for anti-fascist. It's just it's like Brangelina. They're putting 2 words together. So I don't really buy that the Trump administration saying someone is a terrorist is a justification
there's
for anything.
no organization to Antifa at all? I mean, I know that
Where's
they're
their headquarters?
decentralized, but they are a movement.
There
are people that
It's not a terrorist
organize
organization.
So a couple of things here, because now we're getting back into Heaton can nitpick at words bit where I can really shine.
Right.
Okay. There are Antifa chapters. There's no national Antifa organization. Both of these are correct. There are organized chapters of Antifa, and it is not a national thing like the Elks Lodge. So that is correct. I don't have any. I think that it would do well for us as a country to make a distinction between Antifa and the Black Bloc. The Black Blocs where people dress up like ninjas and throw Molotov cocktails and break windows. I don't have much sympathy for the Black Bloc. But we're talking about what is in effect a tactic, which goes to the deeper issue here. I don't really like when George W. Bush declared war on terror because it's declaring war on a tactic rather than a group of people. And I'm not really sure how you can do that. So declaring war on a terrorist group, I think, is already a bit suspect. In terms of what that allows for in terms of law, in order to bring in the National Guard, it needs to be foreign invasion, domestic rebellion, or inability to execute federal law. We've talked about inability to execute federal law to some extent. Foreign invasion, from where I'm at, needs to be something that's concerted, involving a foreign government sending in troops. If it's a gang, it is a criminal enterprise and should be dealt with through criminal law, including up to deadly force, depending on the thing, right? But it's not the same thing as an invasion. There's a difference between a foreign invasion and a criminal enterprise, just as there's a difference between a rebellion and a riot. In the injunction that the Portland judge put on the federal government here recently, she spelled out for a rebellion to be a rebellion under federal law, according to her interpretation of it, it needs to be armed and it needs to be organized. So people dressed up as ninjas throwing smoke grenades, even if it's odious, even if it is occluding certain activities, that doesn't constitute a rebellion. So I think that they are playing fast and loose with the wording here in terms of the definitions of invasion and rebellion in order to justify overreach.
And this is where I want to come back to fuck the Democrats, because this is exactly what we said they would do, because they called the January 6th rioters insurrectionists. It's the same thing. It's just like the hypocrisy of the Republicans doing the thing that they accuse the Democrats of. But it is the same thing. They're accusing rioters of being insurrectionists in order to justify using this force.
All right. Can we go to the Patreon spot now, or do we have anything else to get out?
No.
Sure.
Patreon.com/We're Not Wrong. This week we are going to be talking about Bill Belichick's documentary getting canceled because his team fucking sucks and he can't control his teenage girlfriend. No, she's not teenage. She's in
close.
her 20s, right?
She's in her 20s. That's fine. That's fine.
Yeah. Anyway, they stink. They're terrible.
I mean, I think they're 2 and 2.
Now it's not going to be on Hulu. 2 and 3. But they got blown out on television 2 times. Well, I mean, like, look, if they lost the 2 games that they won, like, then it would really be a 5-alarm fire. They're playing like the school for the deaf or whatever in those other 2 games. Bari Weiss is the new head of CBS News. And the employees, well, friends, they ain't happy about it. They reacted with frustration and skepticism to the appointment of the former, or maybe current, editor-in-chief of the Free Press. This is, of course, following Paramount Skydance's $150 million acquisition for her publication. 6 staffers told The Guardian that they were dismayed by Weiss's lack of television news experience and perceived political bias, with one calling it utterly depressing. The newsroom, already fatigued by leadership turmoil and legal controversies, expressed concern over Weiss reporting directly to Paramount CEO David Ellison instead of CBS News executives. Some employees questioned the network's direction and Weiss's authority, while others adopted a wait-and-see approach. Ellison defended the move as a step toward rebuilding CBS's reputation for rigorous, fact-based reporting. Weiss, in a memo, pledged to listen to staff and help make CBS the most trusted news organization in America. Andrew Heaton, is the Free Press a model for how you would like to see a mainstream news outfit like CBS run?
I'm positive on the Free Press. I think that Bari Weiss's story has been a good one that I like. I think that I read and was touched by her outgoing piece in the New York Times when she left. The line that resonated with me was, "It should not take great bravery to be a centrist." And her perspective at the time was that as a Biden voting centrist, she'd basically been forced out by the very online progressives that were living in a Twitter bubble.
Poor Bowie.
So I was sympathetic to her, and I'm glad that the Free Press has become the force that it is. I think that that's been a positive development. I think, to be honest with you, I don't read a lot of Bari Weiss, so I don't know to what extent she's evolved or changed since that time. I do keep hearing that she's pro-Trump. I think that there is a tendency to ascribe to centrists being pro or anti whoever you don't like if they're insufficiently against that person. So it might well be that she's trying to call balls and strikes and is anti-Trump, but not to the same extent. So it's interpreted as being pro-Trump. Possible that she's slid that direction. I don't know, but I would say it's a possibility. The bit where I actually side with the CBS staffers, though, Justin, is I do find it curious that she's going to be running their news team and she's an opinion person. So when I was at Fox Business, I was friends with Shep Smith, who's a great guy. I really like Shep Smith. And Shep did a fine show, by the way. And for all the odious shit you can say about Fox News, and I would agree with a great deal of it, the actual news is fine. The news reporting is okay. The problem that people have with Fox is the opinion side of it, which is the gargantuan part of the Fox enterprise. But these are two separate camps. The people that are working in the newsroom tend to be fine. When you look at the actual news reports coming out, they are being fact-based. They suffer from the same problems that any news organization would have in terms of where they're going to put their emphasis and what data they think is relevant. But these are two different ways of approaching things. I'm an opinionist. I'm not a news guy. I don't tell news. I'm not a reporter. I've never been a reporter. I'm a windbag. I come from the opinion side of this. I come from the editorial side of this. So I do think that their position is justified to some extent, and that I find that curious to put an opinion editor in charge of the newsroom. It seems to me that she would be good doing the opinion side of stuff for CBS.
God forbid CBS be looked at as having bias. Jesus.
Yeah. Well, and I guess, Justin, would that be, you think the pushback in her favor is that she would be able to identify bias and take it out? Because I feel like this is more of your wheelhouse and where you can shine. You being the most popular journalist amongst us.
Let me get Jen's opinion first. Jen, what do you think?
Well, first of all, Bari Weiss being someone who's going to weed out bias is hilarious to me. My concern with her is that she is a self-described Zionist fanatic. And
too close to the Jews.
Oh my God, that is so not what I said. Are you trying to fight with me today? Jesus.
No, I'm just joking. I'm joshing. Come on.
Yeah, no, this isn't. Well, here's the thing. Bari Weiss would accuse me of being anti-Semitic for even saying that sentence, because she has a long history of accusing people of being anti-Semitic for all kinds of reasons, like her Arab professors in college that she tried to get fired. And then she became an anti-cancel culture warrior. So, she's a hypocrite, and I dismiss her as biased because we now have 2 years of data of Israel being unbelievably violent towards the Palestinians. She still won't acknowledge it in any real way. And she did perpetuate lies well after they were debunked about October 7th, like that there were babies burned in ovens. We know that wasn't true. She kept going with it. She also lied about George Floyd. She said he died because he was on drugs and it didn't have anything to do with Derek Chauvin sitting on his neck for 8 minutes. So it's she is a bullshit artist and she is biased, and we know this. And so that, I think, is why people are so concerned with her being at the top of CBS News, because she's been proven to be biased. And so that's what I have to say about Bari Weiss. But as for the question that was originally posed, is the free press a model for you for how you'd like to see mainstream news? And the answer to that is also no, because the free press was not all that free. She's not some independent person that just started a thing, kind of like the three of us did. She had very powerful billionaire investors. So David Sachs, Mark Andreessen, Howard Schultz, they all gave her a fuckload of money to start her Substack. And now she's publishing things being maybe AI actors are the best. So it's no, I don't want to have all of our media be billionaire owned and funded. And she is a symptom of that. And my fear with her at the head of CBS News is she's going to serve those who helped her get to the position that she's in. And so I am definitely afraid of bias not being policed by
Do we not currently have all of our mainstream news billionaire run and funded?
Oh, trust me, I'm not happy about that. I'm not saying that this is anything different, but I don't think that the free press is a model. We should be well, let's switch to this, because I actually think it's very similar to what we already have. I don't think it's something to look up to.
Then why do people react to it like it's something different?
Because they believe...
Is it just the Israeli-Palestinian conflict or the cancel culture war stuff?
I think Bari Weiss is very good at making herself look like a victim. because she did it in college. She did it at the New York Times. Like she left being like, I was bullied. And so then like she did the Twitter files with Matt Taibbi. And so I think she kind of got this reputation because she is effective in making herself look like a victim. And she was like, I'm going out on my own. And I think people just bought it. I don't think people think about it that closely. Like I don't think people pay attention the way that we do. And so I've never particularly trusted the Free Press because I knew she was in charge of it. And yeah, that's just, I don't think it's a good thing for CBS News. I don't think it's, yeah, I wouldn't be happy about it if I worked there.
The chair recognizes Justin.
I mean, the CBS News is a fucking wreck. It's a smoldering husk of what it used to be. It's been irrelevant for 40 years. It has two crown jewels.
60 Minutes is pretty good.
Yes, it has two crown jewels. 60 Minutes, which is only relevant because it comes on after football, and football is the leading eyeball getter in American television. Face the Nation still has some kind of clout as being a place where people come on. Their old hood ornament was the CBS Nightly News, which is now totally irrelevant, not for any particular reason of their judgment, but just the way that we consume news in general. But they certainly haven't done a great job of making that relevant in any way. CBS News has, over the last 20 years, been covered in political bias scandals, going back to Dan Rather trying to smear George W. Bush and refusing to apologize for it. One of the first great pantsing of mainstream medias by the internet, which I very much followed and love. And one day will open a wing of my house with all the moments and memorabilia that I can find for that. The idea that she's taking over cannot hurt, in my opinion, what is already a tremendously damaged brand that is fairly hopelessly politically biased. Will she bring a new bias to it? Yes, almost assuredly. I don't worry about her largely being, I think it would be unfair to say that she is only an opinion person. She was an opinion person at the New York Times, but she was the full editor at the Free Press, which did do news coverage. I don't think that news coverage was their strength. I think that, to be totally honest, if you look at the stuff that got the biggest splash from the Free Press, it was mostly carbon copies of what Bari did coming out of the New York Times, shitting on mainstream media as a pathway to get a job at the Free Press. Like that was the Yuri Berliner thing and NPR. Like she's very good at finding a hot button issue, bringing a compelling voice to it and bringing that to the fore. Does CBS News need some of that from a news perspective? I think yes. Like if they are able to shift their focus to uncover and talk about things that are not just straight party line, here's the truth as we understand it, which tends to hew more toward Democratic talking points, at least in the mainstream media. And I'm defining that as ABC, CBS, NBC. Yeah, I think that would be interesting. It would at least be different. And if there's one thing that...
Apologies, Justin. I didn't mean to step in.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
I apologize. Please continue. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No. It's good.
Oh, yeah. Sorry. I was just going to say, I was just floating through the website and I like what I see. I've not been a regular on it, but like Tyler Cowen's a writer. I didn't know Tyler Cowen was a writer. That's terrific. I would love for Tyler Cowen to have a presence on CBS. I would watch CBS if Tyler Cowen was on CBS. I like Coleman Hughes. He's on there. And then there's a few people that I don't agree with, but I find interesting, like Neil Ferguson. I find him interesting. I would read his stuff. So I don't know. I'm looking at it like if this is the kind of content that they would bring to CBS, I would be interested.
I think she has an eye for talent. I think that is one thing that is fairly undeniable. And I don't know. I mean, like mainstream news, the good thing about mainstream news is their reach is and their infrastructure is crazy. And so it's like, Jen, I understand she did get gigantic checks from Andreessen Horowitz and David Sachs and stuff like that to start the Free Press. In the world of the media, that is closer to the three of us getting on Riverside and publishing a podcast than it is to the New York Times. Now, it doesn't seem all that different from us, But when we're talking about budgets and the amount of number of people employed in a media organization, they are closer to us than they are to CBS. This is a gigantic jump up for her in terms of responsibility, which is an argument to say that she might be biting off more than she can chew, especially if
she's staying on Free Press, right? So she's doing both.
Also, what the Ellisons want to buy next is Warner Brothers Discovery, which would also bring CNN likely under the same news division as Bari Weiss is currently operating. So this could be a major media shakeup, and you could make the argument of like, all right, well, look, even if you're going to say from your highest perch in mainstream media, you were running the opinion section of the New York Times, a very, very big and august post, at least in terms of readership, that's not television, and it's not running two gigantic, if declining, mainstream media outlets. The other thing that I would say is that, yes, these names mean something to us, but they wouldn't be getting sold for peanuts to the Ellisons, which is what they paid compared to what they would have gone for 20 years ago, if things were going well. They're going poorly. And this is what happens when you have declining assets. They tend to get consolidated and taken in new directions. Does it mean it'll work? Does it mean that Bari Weiss is the right person for it? I have no idea. I do know that if past is prologue, then she is going to create a product that is different, markedly different from anything that you would see. I think that 60 Minutes will look and feel different than it did before. And I think specifically Face the Nation is going to feel different than Meet the Press and This Week and all the other Sunday shows. Like that you will put somebody in there that isn't Margaret Brennan, and that they will be talking to different people and asking different questions than are the norm in that very, very staid and ossified genre.
Justin, I think you've talked me into this. I agree. I think CBS has been largely irrelevant for a while in terms of news and editorial. Like my interaction with CBS the last 20 years has been that they've had some good comedy. And I think that they're the group that does Star Trek, although I'm not entirely sure what the relationship is with Paramount and CBS. Some good, some bad. I won't get into the Star Trek stuff, but I haven't really paid attention to the news. Yeah, this could be good. I would love for them to reinvigorate CBS a little bit, because I don't know, working in political media, the talk is all dominated. The talk about media is all dominated by Fox, CNN, and MSNBC. I haven't heard anybody talk about CBS in a while. And maybe a little bit of new perspective in the platforms that you mentioned would be good.
I will, to Jen's point, echo. If you disagree with Bari Weiss's Zionist position on Israel, then you will probably have a bad time with her coverage of that subject when she has a larger mouthpiece like that. You will probably have a bad time with that version of the coverage.
Yeah. And I think that if you're just replacing perceived bias with a different flavor of perceived bias, you're not really going to fix all that much. You're just going to swap one audience for another. And I think she's going out there saying that she's going to make CBS the most trusted name in news. And like, I don't trust her already. So I doubt that. I hope I'm proven wrong, because I would like to be able to trust people in news. But right now, based on what I've seen, I'm pretty neutral on it, just because I think like you said, like there was perceived bias before, there's perceived bias now. CBS is really only watched by boomers at this point. They're all, taken off over the rainbow bridge.
They still do get big moments. Like it still is, even in 2024, it was an expected thing. And it was as it turns out, a scandal on a few different levels. The idea that presidents have to do an interview on 60 Minutes. Like the fact that it is on after football is a huge fucking deal. Face the Nation is something that still does set the agenda in Washington, D.C. They still are expected to get debates, either presidential debates or vice presidential debates. And in almost every one of the things that I have just mentioned, they have not covered themselves in glory, if not been explicitly biased, even within the last 5 years.
Hey, Justin, one of the critiques that I've heard of this Bari Weiss maneuver and just poking around the internet is that it is actually a political move to curry favor with the Trump administration. So the logic would be that, CBS could have kept fighting their defamation or campaign contribution lawsuit or whatever, that they didn't. They've, they cut loose on that one and gave, I think as a penalty, gave money to the Trump library. And that what in effect they were doing was trying to curry favor with the Trump administration in order to allow them to merge with something else. So that was all a political, a kind of weird soft bribery / we'll quit fighting in order to do it. And the people that are promulgating that view take the position that Weiss has become a pro-Trump figure or a Trump-friendly figure, and that her appointment to the head of CBS is a bone to the Trump administration so that if they want to obtain Warner Discovery, they can, and that the FCC won't fight them on that. Do you think there's anything to that?
The larger connection to the Trump orbit are the Ellisons, not Bari Weiss. The Ellisons, Larry Ellison of Oracle and his son David, they are contributors to Donald Trump's past 2016 political career. They are looking to buy TikTok. They are likely to be the lead investors that are going to buy TikTok. They were the ones that when Trump first wanted to ban TikTok leading up to the 2020 election, got the deal to hold TikTok data on American servers and stuff like that. So Oracle and the Ellisons in general, they're the closer tied to Trump. As for Bari, look, there are people for whom I think Bari Weiss is a center-left commentator that has a disagreement on one of the core issues on the left and now the right, which is the war in Gaza. That is my understanding of her ideologically. If I follow the points that she makes, I don't find her to be in any way speaking for, I don't know a lot of conservative people that are like, thank God Bari Weiss is there. She said exactly what I believe. I think a lot of people on the left say she is too far right for me. And the most animating issue is Gaza. If you were to remove Gaza from it, which is historically how this goes, the anomaly of this war is that it has lasted for 2 years as opposed to the normal flare-ups that happen where it'll go for months and then it goes away. And then people, at least in terms of the leftward coalition, it's less of a pressing issue for them. But as for the merger stuff, look, you can't prove a negative. And obviously Donald Trump is capricious. He had a pretty laissez-faire merger policy in his first term. And it included a lot of companies that were making a lot of money, talking a lot of shit about him. So I don't view that quite as Machiavellian as others, but you can't prove a negative. So I don't know, if people want to believe that, they can believe that. I genuinely think that it's not, if I were to look out of the landscape of media figures and say, okay, CBS is mine. I might have CNN. I want to fucking gut it and put in somebody else who has a new vision for what the future of news is going to be. Bari Weiss would be on the list of 10 people that you would look at that bring you the untested but disruptor energy. And that is very much where the Silicon Valley based mind of the Ellisons are in. The Silicon Valley idea is you over index on excitement, work ethic, and new vision. You discount the idea of experience, because the wrong experience can be the worst thing that you could possibly have. So looking at the kind of people that they would want, Bari Weiss seems like a totally understandable pick. It's not like, if they made Jack Posobiec of One America News the head of CBS, I'd be like, okay, they're doing that. If Sean Spicer was the new head of CBS News, I'd be like, okay, now this is just going to be Newsmax. There's not going to be much of a gulf between the two of them. But Bari Weiss is somebody, regardless of what some folks think of her, that says she is committed to creating provocative, interesting commentary that speaks to a wider scope of the country and is not going to be a stenographer for Democratic talking points. And to be totally honest, if CBS News could just not be the last one, they would be different than NBC and ABC. We're not wrong pod at gmail.com. That's where you write into the show. I got a juryism. Normally it's always Keatonisms that people write in. Cause celebrity. Something that I do say. It is apparently a cause celebre, not celebrity. But this emailer did note that cause KAWSE celebrity could be my drag stage name, which is very nice to know that I would have that. Miss Heatonline writes, Heaton, people didn't vote for the sewage treatment plant commissioner because they don't give a shit.
You know, it's really a shame I don't like puns because it sounds like I'm subconsciously very good at them.
Was that
But
not
I don't
on
like
purpose?
puns. No, I don't. I fucking hate puns. Here's the deal. I think puns are well placed when they are very, very understated. So I like puns if they're in a headline that there's no emotional discharge on it. Like, I think puns are used very well on The Daily Show when you have somebody up on camera and there's like a little headline underneath them that's a pun. I think that they're very good for that. But they're usually not the meat. They're usually secondary and peripheral. And the thing that drives me fucking crazy about puns is the goddamn expression everybody has when they uses them. So they'll say like pun, fuck you. I hate that. I fucking hate it. I hate the... Like, I figured out it's a homophone. Huh? Fuck you. No, I hate him. It's a homophone. Drop it. God damn it.
I thought this was very, very well done, though, because this is also, I would not see quite as a pun. I read it more as kind of like, the British have a lot of these kind of witticisms that like are more filigree than they are the meat. Yeah. And it's like, you were making a point and also had like a little like.
So now I'm going to claim I entirely did it on purpose. Good job, listener, for noticing my brilliance. Yeah, it's just when someone says no pun intended and they clearly intended the pun. That's when I want to punch them in the face. That's the thing that drives me berserk. So yes, the filigree thing that Justin said, I did that. I'm brilliant.
There we go. On the death of the American working man, boys drool, writes. I appreciate what Heaton and Jen were saying about how maybe we are on par with other nations with our employment rates and we shouldn't panic. However, I do think the young male unemployment crisis is real. Richard Reeves and his work on the young male epidemic of unemployment, his book of Boys and Men, is my go-to for this topic. And while he points to many issues befalling young men, especially young African-American men, he starts his scholarship with one very important point. You can hold two positions to be true at the same time. Advocating for women's advancement while also wanting men to thrive simultaneously. My mother-in-law likes to say that she could have seen this problem coming in the 70s and 80s. She has 4 sons, 40 through 40 and 49, respectively, all of whom are highly intelligent, and as a teacher herself was angered how many times girls in engineering or girls in STEM events were pushed, but nothing promoting boys in. I get how this would be ridiculous if men are the dominant demographic in these fields, but she's the mom of boys, so I can understand where she's coming from.
First, the book sounds interesting. I might check that out. That seems like it would be something that would flush out this more. And my data is pretty cursory. We talked about it last week, but that's about the extent to which I know. I also like that you're pointing out that it's not a pissing match between men and women. I don't think that that's been a proper way to look at things. Of one group's gain is the other one's loss. But something that you might point out in that regard is there have been these pushes, which I think have been good, to get women into STEM. I think that's probably, when we look at things like the income gap, there's not really a wage gap, there's an income gap. And the reason that there's an income gap between the genders is that disproportionately high amounts of men go into high paid jobs like engineering and tech, disproportionately large amounts of women go into lower paid jobs like teaching and nursing. And that tends to be the main reason for the income gap between them. We don't seem to see the same level of push for, there's not as many women in STEM, which I think is probably something that needs to be dealt with in secondary and primary school. I think it probably starts back pretty early, and it was a good idea to try to get rid of old-timey presumptions that girls are bad at math or whatever. I'm glad that we did that. At that same token, though, you don't see very many people talking about how there's a woeful amount of men in nursing, or there's a woeful amount of men in teaching. And maybe we ought to be doing both and trying to, if nothing else, just remove the stigma that anybody has based on gendered expectations going into a particular line of work.
Agreed.
Gen Z Misery writes, I get that Gen Z complains a lot. I'm a Gen Zer, and I will continue to complain. Almost all my friends have technical degrees, and the only ones who are doing well got a leg up at a company because their parent worked in the senior position there, and they are married to somebody else who has a technical degree with a good job. Multiple of my friends have killed themselves because they did not see a future for themselves. Many of my friends are antisocial or borderline asexual. There's nowhere for them to go, and they have no money to go anywhere anyway. And yes, I vote. I live in a hard blue state, so it wouldn't change anything if I managed to convince everyone I ever met to vote one way or another, but I still vote for whatever reason.
I'm sorry about your friends. That's very bleak. And that must be really hard for you. So thank you for sharing that. I don't really know what to say to this because it's anecdotal, to be honest. Except for I'm sorry that your friends are struggling. I don't know what else to say.
Yeah, ditto. I'm sorry that your friends are struggling. If I could just offer advice rather than pushback, I think there's a difference between lack of opportunity versus comparison. And I can't speak for you and your friends. And it's entirely possible that me being 41-year-old suited guy in Washington is missing out on crucial data that I am out of touch on. All possible, right? All I can relate is my own anecdote, which is when I was in my early 20s, I went from being top 10 seniors at the University of Oklahoma, winning every fucking award that I could possibly get, being, part of a clique that was described messianically by all educators from every level of education I got until I graduated, to just get off the train. And when you're in college, it's very easy for you to go, I know where I am. I know how I'm doing. I can compare how I'm doing to all of my peers. I'm on the right track. I know exactly what the route forward is supposed to look like and where I'm at on that route. And then the train stops and the conductor goes, get the fuck off. And you go, which direction do I go? And he goes, don't care. Go any direction you want. And all of a sudden, everything changes. Everything's at a different rate. I have friends that immediately went to law school and got married in 2 years, and they're way ahead of me in terms of their personal life and in terms of their finances. But also when I talk to them, they're kind of jealous about me and the more novel-related experiences I had in my 20s. There's this tendency to try to compare ourselves to our peers in a way that makes it very difficult, given that lives go in such different directions with such different priorities precisely when we're in our 20s. And I would want to spare you needlessly hurting yourself if that is the case with you and your friends from doing that. The other thing that I'd point out too, and we talked about this a little bit last time, is I do think that there's this trap people fall into of comparing themselves not to their peers, but or identifying necessarily real big problems, which relate to us, of course, but comparing themselves to people that are 20, 30 years older than them. And I think that ends up causing an unnecessary amount of suffering. So I am sorry that you're struggling and that your friends are struggling. If there are structural issues we need to work on, let's work on them. But I hope that it is my goal for you that you do not needlessly bring any additional suffering onto yourself by making harmful comparisons.
Yeah, and I'd actually like to add to that, because I think, what's so sad is that you said your friends killed themselves because they didn't see a future for themselves. And sometimes you can't see the path when you're fresh out of college. So let me tell you, people know now that my husband's very successful. He's a utility scale solar engineer. He's in charge of, a third of the country at his large company. That is not where he started. So it's he got his bachelor's degree, then he got a master's degree in mechanical engineering. And fresh out of that, he went and worked for some dude out of his garage doing energy efficiency audits. He was paid very little. After that, the way he got into solar is he was waiting tables at a Round Table Pizza, used the tip money that he had to get another certification in solar, and went to work for two other guys out of their garage in their startup, which was putting solar panels on individual houses. And so he didn't go straight from getting that degree to having this job. It took 20 years to get there. And in the meantime, he was doing jobs just to pay the bills. So it's if you don't see the path now, go and get whatever job you can. It doesn't have to be connected to your degree. You can still work on that path without being at the top right away. I think there's some unrealistic expectations, I think, sometimes getting right out of college that you're going to get your dream job soon. And it doesn't work that way.
If you're a gifted kid, I think you're kind of set up for failure. What I mean is, like, you're going from being, I don't know what your circumstances were, but I was one of those irritated, pointy headed, ladder climbing type A personality kids that had been in every gifted program there was. And when you get into the workforce, all of that stops. Unless you went to like Harvard or something where you've got a giant, like, you get a feudal title associated with your name for the rest of your entire life. I wasn't one of those kids. It's a big drop in status, which is very painful. Drops in status are incredibly painful. And it tends to be a weird squiggly line. So like, I'm very happy with my career. I'm very, very happy with where I am, where I've wound up in terms of my job. It took a really long time to get here. I worked for Congress, and that was a lot of fun. When I came back from my master's degree, I couldn't get a fucking job anywhere in DC. And I was so fucking frustrated and depressed to the point where I'm not going to get into it. I've never told anybody the details of it, but I got into an accident that I could have died. And one of my friends told me at the time that if I did, he would have thought I'd killed myself because I was so miserable at that time.
Jesus.
There were some dark periods that I had, and there were some things going on in my life at that time. I would have been like maybe 26. But a big part of the backdrop was that I was unemployed and I was struggling to get a job. Finally ended up becoming a Segway tour guide, which was fun, but was a big drop in status for me, going from working for Congress, where all my friends were, to being like weird Segway tour guide dude. Then I moved to New York, and the first 6 months I was there, I got grocery money because Gene Epstein, who was at the time the financial editor or the economics editor at Barron's, out of pity and kindness, took me on as his quote unquote personal assistant. So I would basically do chores for him. And then we would go from Barron's. We would sneak up on Saturdays from Barron's into the Wall Street Journal. We would take all of the copies of book proofs that people would send out in hopes that they would get a write-up. We'd leave one copy, but if they sent 5, I would take 4 of them. And then I would schlep them to the Strand and I would sell them as used books in order to get grocery money. So like, I don't know. I'm doing okay now, but I'm just saying, like, there are lots of people that have a lot of setbacks, and I wish I could go back and tell myself during those dark periods how much better things were going to get, and that there was actually going to be an incredible amount of fulfillment and success in the future, and it's not just a permanent bleak hole.
On the other side of this coin, we have Gen Z Rise and Grind, who writes, "No glaze, no cap. I vibe with what you're saying about Gen Z. Lots of people my age want a bag without the chase. Some of my more bougie friends went off to expensive colleges, spent a rack on their parents' dime, and now are flexing monthly trips to Europe. But they're also salty about the fact that they can't snag a liberal arts job and have to work at their dad's fireplace installation company as a Nepo baby salesman. Nobody has it easier than us, especially if we grew up before it was cool to give your kid brain rot by letting them watch Cocomelon on an iPad and a Red Robin. If you're simping for a job, get a trade or something like it. I'm a web developer who builds stuff with AI. I create the slop. And everyone in my company either went to a college for something dumb like ancient Greek or dropped out of high school or college. Bruh, teach yourself to code. Show a company. Get it done. Stop simping for an easy job and just get a job. Also, the Venn diagram of people my age bitching about AI and how it's using water and destroying art jobs, and the whiners make a complete circle. Also, there are coding jobs out there now. People just don't need brain dead computer science majors who can't reinvent Objective-C from scratch. They need someone who knows when Claude just tried to plain text passwords. And then this young emailer asked me for a Sora code and said that he would make a deep fake of my voice, telling everybody how awesome college was if I didn't give it to him. So I caved to terrorism and gave him a Sora code."
Wow.
I love this kid.
Hey, kid, here's what I want from you. This was really well written. In my mind.
Here's what I want from you: to adopt you. You are an amazing person.
Yeah, you are my son now. This is what I want. Okay, this line here, the chase without the bag, or the bag without the chase. I want you to do like some spoken word music William Shatner bullshit. Like I want you to get a cigarette and read this while there's a track in the background. Like you're doing some like 1970s.
Scan you into Sora and then a friend me and Heaton and then DM us the Sora of you doing a William. In fact, I don't know if they'll let William Shatner since they tighten the guardrails.
Side note, just for everybody, Sora's fucking great. Jen, are you playing around with that at all?
Once again, I don't know what the hell you're talking about.
Jen, I'm going to send you some videos that are going to blow your fucking mind. For anybody unfamiliar with this, Sora's only been out publicly maybe 2 weeks now.
Less than a week.
But it is fucking crazy. You download the app, you look into your camera on your phone, you read 3 numbers like 41, 38, 92. You turn to the right, you turn to the left. The whole thing takes less than a minute. And then your likeness, which you own, all that stuff, your likeness is now there. You can now make videos of yourself and your friends. So like Justin and myself and Brian Brushwood, we're dicking around on this every day. I made a video of Justin and Brian at a Soviet military parade where they're waving at tanks with dicks hanging out of the cannons. I've made videos of Winston Churchill getting irritated by a monkey that keeps interrupting him while he talks about invading Germany.
Here we go. This one, I've been cooking on this all morning, but I wanted to do one of Andrew Heaton in an 80s workplace comedy about the banning of smoking at work.
Top sale world-class smoker. He burns through a pack before lunch.
It's so good. It's so good. So just anybody who's bummed out this week,
right now.
Thank you. Go on Sora. I'm telling you right now, this is the golden. This is the only social media platform that I've been in the last decade where I actually leave happier than when I got on. Like I'll get on, it just makes me laugh. It's just making funny videos with friends. So guy who wrote into us, get on fucking Sora and start making funny videos with me. And
he shook me down for a code, so he's on Sora now.
Good.
I also
hit me up. I'm at Mighty Heaton, kid.
I gave it to a source who listens to this show in Congress, and he is literally. I've had to swipe up notifications because while we're recording, he sent me 8 different videos through Signal.
Jen, it's super great.
You are probably going to hate it. It is it is
Sounds
the
awful.
AI apocalypse has come. It's here. Like you can make deep fakes of your friends. Sam Altman, the CEO of OpenAI, has given the world full permission to make any and all videos. You can put whatever words you want in Sam Altman's mouth and he will say them. There was the first 48 hours. There was no guardrails on copyright. So just Mario cursing at Pikachu and all sorts of crazy stuff. Now things have tightened, but still it's the tech is remarkable. I mean, no one wants to hear me glaze AI, but it's amazing.
It's fucking amazing. And the amount of stuff that we're going to be able to do with this, it's going to change shit. Like Austin Bragg and I, who do funny videos at Reason, like we saw this come out and we're like, oh, we're in an arms race now with anyone in America that could just put a funny prompt into something for a funny video. But you know what? I'd like there to be more funny videos. So terrific.
But how do we know what's real and what's fake now?
We no longer know. That's it. It's
scary.
You no longer know. Unless it's live, it's not real. If you see something ridiculous, it's probably fake. We now live in the future. Nothing is verifiable anymore.
Lives going away too. It's just a matter of GPUs.
So are we out of a job? Like what's going to happen to us?
I mean, human connection still matters. The idea that we are real people and people can buy into the idea that we are real people will always matter, in my opinion. Now, does that mean that we can expand in every vertical that we would have otherwise done? No, but we weren't that ambitious to begin with. So, what the fuck does it matter?
That's true.
The dude train rolls on, right? So I'm an engineer at a company that, among other things, builds and operates hyperscale data centers. I don't work on the coding side. I work with all the infrastructure that keeps the blinky lights in the racks cool enough. For every one of me, there are a dozen or more of hands-on technician jobs. The industry needs operations technicians, electricians, HVAC, pipe fitters, millwrights, and several other jobs to be pursued by some combination of apprenticeship and technical certification. Women tend to not choose these careers due to a combination of disinterest and having better options. But if you're intelligent, capable, and motivated, there's a path to getting off your ass and joining the class of assholes like me who complain about their dumb motherfucker who just turned my chiller into an 18-ton paperweight.
And I'll testify that this is true. All of those things sound like technicians, electrician, HVAC people, pipe fitters.
Mhm.
All of those sound like jobs where I have to get dirty, and I'm not interested. So, and I think it boils down to that a lot of times. It's not that I'm lazy. I'm just like, ugh, I don't want to have to touch a spider while at work.
I don't know how to get into this, but it's like, I was raised by a single mother. I very much believe in the idea of opportunity of access for women in all rungs of leadership and the workforce. And when we understand that that is a different topic than the natural inclination of the two genders and what they want to do, we can have realistic conversations about like, hey, maybe not every industry needs to be 50-50. Maybe that's not the goal. Like maybe there's going to be unbalanced gender stuff in certain areas. And it's not to say that's different than saying if a woman is capable that she should be able to get that job. Absolutely. You should be wanting to do that. But I don't know. That's a whole
there are going to be aggregated probabilistic weights that apply to genders going into various fields. It means that just in general, with large groups of people. But that gets us
into the idea that genders might be slightly different or have different inclinations. And that's, sensitive to some.
Yeah, but the thing is, like, as the token woman, I will say that it's absolutely true. Like, I was raised in a neighborhood with a gang of dudes. That's why I'm so comfortable around guys. But even as kids, even though like we'd play sports together and I could kick their asses in certain ways, if there was a bug, they would kill it for me because I didn't want to touch the bug. It was just like, we knew we were different. I knew that I could do the things that they were doing, but if they didn't make me do it, great. Yeah, we were just different and it was fine. And I feel like when you have these children that turn into adults, I think it still stands. And I think it's okay that women don't want to go into these fields. And I think it's okay that men don't want to be teachers or nurses if they don't want to. But I think we need to acknowledge those differences. And then if we want, like, let's say we want men to become nurses, then we might want to frame it in a way that it's cooler for men because it's not natural to be a caretaker.
I'll tell you what, I'm all for men getting into the nursing profession. Number one, it's oftentimes a $200,000 a year job. And especially if you're single and you can move around the country, you can make probably even more than that. And number two, you've seen those subreddits? Some of these nurses are hooas.
My dad, when he was in the hospital for 3 weeks, he had a male nurse who was so hot. It was like an episode of Grey's Anatomy for me every day. I loved him. So, yeah, big fan of male nurses, especially when they're gorgeous.
To America's Rights, high schoolers in my area of North Carolina are separated into white and blue-collar jobs by the 10th grade. This leads to two groups being separated from each other because the blue-collar kids are sent to career centers, VOTEC, for half the day. This sends a clear signal as to who is going to college and who is not. This class split has become more pronounced, except blue-collar kids make more money sooner, but at least as of now, their earnings tend to top out quicker.
I have known in my life that this would have been great for.
Yeah, I think this is a good thing. I did an episode on my show 2-3 years ago now where there was a guy from Colorado who started an apprenticeship program that I was very taken with. And he has a really good point, which is what do you do with the kids that aren't college bound? And I look back to my high school experience. I was college bound. I was always going to do something liberal arts related, probably useless. But there were kids that last 2 years of high school, they were just kind of in kid prison. It wasn't really doing anything for them. They weren't they weren't absorbing the information. We're just making them sit there. And it would have been way better for them to be able to go do a apprenticeship job, vocational training 2 days a week. That would have been a great thing for them if that had been more normal. And that is the more normal thing for Germany and Switzerland. And I think what we would do well to do is one, I've said this before. We should view liberal arts degrees. We should view college degrees kind of the way we look at Latin. If you speak Latin, that's terrific. That's great that you speak Latin. It means you're intelligent. It means that you're almost certainly well educated. If you don't speak Latin, it doesn't mean you're a dipshit. If you don't speak Latin, it doesn't mean you're stupid or you're deserving of less respect in our society. We should be moving that direction where we don't view it as a hierarchy. We view it as two different modalities of economics.
It means you're straight.
What they do in Switzerland, which I think helps, is Switzerland very early on cleaves people, as you're talking about, but they allow ways to get back in. So maybe a 33-year-old will they'll start working in an apprenticeship program or something like that, VOTEC school, when they're 16. They're not college bound. And then maybe like 31, they'll go, you know what? I actually, it's time to level up my career. I want to go back to college. Switzerland will figure out how to integrate their work experience with college curriculum. So as they come in, they'll go, oh, you've spent 8 years doing this. Well, then you've already got credit for this, and this. You already have these requisite skill sets and knowledge. We're only going to make you do the university degree for 1.5 to 2 years. And then you're able to jump back over to this other ladder. So having more fluidity in different modalities, I think would be best for everybody.
I believe, I might bungle this, but people can look it up. I think in Singapore, there are state-run ways that you can access retraining at like age 28 and then also at age like 45, but at like, pretty critical junctures where you might need help going into another field, like they provide the scaffolding to do it, which I think is pretty interesting. In defense of Walmart writes, of the many employees that I know that work at Walmart, many value the part-time flexibility and wouldn't work much more if it was available. Many Walmarts are open 24 hours, so it can be more accommodating to certain people. Some people I know are on disability and stay on disability and only work less than 20 hours a week, so they're still eligible for disability payments and food stamps. Because of disability, they couldn't work more than 20 hours consistently anyway. And Walmart provides extra spending money, and the employee discount and cheaper Walmart prices allow their disability funds to go further.
I mean, that's just the nature of part-time work. There are also people that work at the Walmarts and other corporations here in the United States that work full-time and are still on food stamps. Those are the people we have a problem with. Walmart can afford to pay their people.
Should bullet messages be shared, right? Boys and was the topic. Boys and their toys is the emailer. It will shock no one to learn that young men have been writing filthy things on bullets for as long as there's been young men writing and bullets. Some of the best examples of such inscriptions come from Greece and Rome, where soldiers frequently fired hazelnut-sized lead bullets from slingshots on the battlefield. Most genuine bullet inscriptions from the Greek period are the names of the commanders, the soldiers' cities, gods, and exhortations to victory. But even in the Greek period, genuine humor slips in. Plenty of bullet inscriptions say, Vexai, catch, Labe, take this, and Swagalian, dessert. The Roman period makes it clear that Luigi Mangione and Tyler Robinson stood on the shoulders of literary giants. Classics include Show Us Your Ass, Fulvia, and Octavian Sucks Cock. Yes, that Octavian, the one who later became the Emperor Augustus. Our killing tools haven't changed a lot. Our killing tools have changed a lot, but we sure have not.
Savages.
Love this email. This is such fun history. Thank you for sharing this. Also, I have a guess as to who it is. If I know, you email me, but I think I know who this is. This is fun.
Unswayable writes, Jen believing that the showing of the violence might have some benefit to grasp the consequences is not born in my experience, or not my direct experience from those who have witnessed violence but don't have their own beliefs affected. My cousin had her 2 daughters in Sandy Hook Elementary on that fateful day, and it didn't convert her into an advocate for gun control, not even giving up her personal guns that she kept in her house. She did cancel her NRA membership, but that was because of a training video via DVD that they sent out for school safety, and she, I believe correctly, judged it to be crassly opportunistic. If being so close to tragedy doesn't move you, then how persuasive will it be when it's just in your social media feed and news diet, along with more banal news stories?
First of all, I'm so sorry that you were so close to that horrific tragedy. My thoughts are with your entire family. That's so awful. And as for like what I didn't say that I believed, and like my entire stance last week was like, I don't know what to think about that, because I know that seeing Charlie Kirk's shooting has fucked me up. And so, and it hasn't changed my opinion in any way. So this is definitely an interesting part of that. But like, I don't believe that showing violence is going to benefit anything. Like, I genuinely don't know how to do that. I would have appreciated in that moment when I was looking for, is Charlie Kirk alive or not, to not have that video just show up the way that it did. So I actually think what I was advocating for was to have a choice of whether or not we see it. I was just kind of pondering, like, would it make a difference? And it sounds like you are on the no side of that. But I don't actually have firm beliefs on this, just to clarify.
You know, going back to the media question that we were talking with Bari Weiss, you know, part of what is kind of understood media lore is that television helped end the Vietnam War because they showed horrors of violence. And that was something that was different than what would happen before, specifically when government had a more friendly relationship with the broadcast media. And I don't think that that's untrue, but I also think that what ended the Vietnam War was the draft. And if we were just shown a gigantic bloody conflict for which people had no a possibility of entering into involuntarily, we probably would have had it last about as long as it was going to last otherwise without the draft.
I mean,
That's just
Gaza.
my opinion.
We're seeing so much
fucking the
horrible
Iraq
stuff
War,
in Gaza.
Afghanistan, like shit has happened since where, it's like if there's no draft, then there's less of a conversation.
Yeah, I agree with that.
And finally, how could you not mention Emmett Till, writes, every lesson in school and documentaries that I've seen on race and segregation mentions Emmett Till and how his mother specifically chose to have an open casket funeral so that people could see the consequences of evil that racism brought. This was the perfect opportunity to add some more historical context to the discussion that was missed. You left me screaming at my radio. Well, listener, between you and Emmett Till's mother, we apologize.
I don't apologize for shit. Are you kidding me? This is one of those type of criticisms that makes me insane. I didn't know about Emmett Till or his mother or about any of this. So it wasn't like some mistake on my part that I didn't bring up a thing that I didn't know about. Had you written this in a way it was like, by the way, let me add this interesting thing to the conversation, I wouldn't be annoyed with you. But if you're screaming at your radio because I didn't know a thing that you knew, I don't owe you apologies. Fuck that. We don't know all the things that you know. So we're not going to provide all the context that you want us to say. You can hold me accountable.
I think screaming at the radio might be a little bit less.
No, but I get this shit all the time.
I was just delighted to learn we were on the radio. That was news to me. Good job, us. We've expanded.
This is a consistent thing that people do where they will get mad at us for things that we did not say. You can hold me accountable for the words that come out of my mouth, but you don't get to be mad at me for the things I don't say. And this has happened for 13 years. The whole time I've had this career, people be like, well, you didn't mention this thing. And it's like, maybe I didn't fucking know. So
I have to say that is a career hazard that we've got. I'll get lots of emails where I'll bring on a pro-nuclear advocate. We'll talk about it. And he'll say, the Carter administration was really hostile to nuclear power. And then somebody will email me and go, hey, man, I was really surprised that you decided not to bring up the undersecretary of atomic energy under Reagan, Jimmy Kilton, who was a huge nuclear advocate. That was kind of a glaring omission that you didn't bring up. It is like, I weirdly, I don't know the intricacies of the Carter administration within their energy department. So that kind of stuff happens all the time. In this instance, this Emmett Tilson is
Till.
It's a lynching from 1955. And
yes.
I am unfamiliar with it. Because I went to Oklahoma public schools. There was some stuff they didn't tell me. I don't know. But it sounds like, if you're very aware of all that history, it probably is a touchstone. One
of the many things that you can learn about in the lyrics of Kanye West, who mentioned Emmett Till. That's how I learned about Emmett Till. I've learned a lot of things about Kanye from Kanye's songs. Some of them I had to stop listening to as he's made more recent music. But back in the day, I'm familiar with the idea of Emmett Till and specifically the famous photographs. Again, I think that we tend to overrate visual stimuli to change. I think that they are obviously things that affect us a lot, but I don't know if they affect change in the way that people talk about it. Certainly it was an important part of that movement, but also there was a lot of parts about segregation in the Jim Crow South that eventually came to bear. So, but thank you for listening and for writing.
And I have always been opposed to segregation, and Jen has been since 1998. So we are on the right side of history here, and we're all on the same team.
We're Not Wrong is a production of Dog and Pony Show Audio. Our editor is Will Saddleberg. On PX3 this week, it's a bit of a truncated episode because I don't have my mics anymore because I got robbed in Oakland.
What?
Justin, do you think it was the same guy who robbed me?
No, I think it was an organized crime ring that is allowed to operate in Oakland because there's no political will to change it because it is an area that uses its weaponized empathy against itself. And
were you at the gas station by the airport? Because that's where everyone gets robbed.
Or was this did they steal it out of your place while you were gone? Are you okay?
Yeah, I parked the car and we went to Burma Superstar on Temescal, which is a nice little area of Oakland. in a frustrating moment of foreshadowing, the stand where you have to walk by a million times has a gigantic "Don't leave shit in your car" sign, which turned out to be prophetic. But yeah, my laptop, my Rode mics, my 4K webcam, a copy of the book that I had to do an interview for the next day, Ashley's bag, including Bella's mattress, all of my clothes. They got stolen. They left Bella's pack and play. So thank you for them. And her diaper bag, which I assume it wasn't a hungry single mother, because if it was a hungry single mother, they probably would have taken the diaper bag. Yeah. So anyway, that and Bill Scher talking about the shutdown on PX3 this week.
I'm sorry you got burgled.
Sorry.
That sucks. That's a really violating feeling, and also just a major logistical fuck cluster for you, man. I'm sorry.
And it's so Oakland. It is so Oakland that happened to you. I'm so sorry. Did you live here all that time and never get robbed? Like, is this the first time?
I never got bipped, as they say in Oakland, which is the phraseology for having your car window smashed open and shit stolen out of there. No, 9 years. I never got bipped, largely because I had Florida level window tint. So it was hard to look into the car. And also I had a place to drag all my valuable shit, which, unlike the one time that I parked the car and didn't take my laptop with me, which is dumb, but them's the breaks in the big city, you know?
I'm sorry, kid. Do you have a Venmo?
Yeah, I don't need.
Put out the Venmo. People want to help. Put it out. Put it out.
Too bad.
Do it.
I hope donate to causes that I disagree with. That's what I would recommend. Heaton, what's on the order?
Judge Week. We're finally doing Judge Week. We're a little bit later, but every week or every day on the Political Orphanage this week, we're doing an episode related to law and the Supreme Court. Normally, I do one episode a week, and then I do a bonus episode on top of that. We have 5 episodes this week. They're all awesome. On Monday, I had on Tim Sandifer talking about the court ruling on whether or not judges can do nationwide injunctions against the executive branch. Can a federal judge shut down the actions of the entire presidency? We get from there into birthright citizenship and some of the arguments that are being made that natural born citizens does not include the children of illegal immigrants, which is going to be a big flashpoint in the Supreme Court moving forward. Yesterday, I did a bonus episode with my defense attorney in New York where I got advice from him on how I could use the insanity plea. So if you've ever wondered about the insanity plea, we actually get into all of that, how it works. Turns out it doesn't work very well or very often, but if you're interested in it, that was the bonus episode. Today, I have on Anastasia Bowden. We're talking about Mahmoud v. Taylor. This is a court case where in Montgomery County, the public schools were putting varying ranges of LGBTQ literature in elementary school story time. Some of them struck me as very innocuous, where like just characters happen to be gay. Some of them were very much like pro-transgender, this is what kids should think. And the court case hinged on to what extent can parents opt out their kids of things that they find religiously offensive. Tomorrow, I've just recorded the episode, but tomorrow's episode is going to be fucking awesome. It's my favorite of the week so far, which is porn law. So Paxton, the Free Speech Coalition versus Paxton. I don't remember if we've talked about this much on this particular program. Texas put in age verification laws on porn websites. And as a result, Pornhub has pulled out. As a result, Pornhub has pulled out of Texas. And we get into a lot of the
puns. That
one was a filigree that was intentional. You'll notice I kept moving on.
Filigree.
That one was intentional. But we get it. I talked to the general counsel from FIRE, and we really get into a huge amount of porn law. There's a constitutional distinction between what constitutes obscene versus offensive behavior. Obscene versus offensive content. There's things called the Miller test. There's the Ginsburg case. We get into what is protected, what is not protected, and get into the ruling itself. But you will learn more about porn law if you listen to tomorrow's episode than you've ever known in your entire life. And then finally on Friday, I'm going to do a sign-off bonus episode on the history of cruel and unusual punishment, which has been fascinating. The kind of shit that was just commonplace, like in the United States up till 1860. In the great state of Pennsylvania, you could cut someone's ears off for stealing a horse. If they stole a horse, you would cut their first offense. The statute was cut their ears off. It's called knobbing. I can't remember what the term was. Second offense, brand HT on the forehead. And then third offense, I guess they hanged you. I don't remember. But like late in the game, 1860, which raises a really good question of how did that not run afoul of the Constitution's prohibition on cruel and unusual? Turns out there's actually a lot of jurisprudence in American history trying to figure out what constitutes cruel and unusual. And I get into all of that. So it is a full week of law, jurisprudence, and the Supreme Court on the political orphanage.
Jan?
So it's not out yet. It'll be out this weekend, but I'm trying a new series for the public feed called Last Month in Congress, because I'm doing Last Week in Congress for the Patreon. It's an experiment, but shit went down last month, so I'm going to let you know about that. We got some new laws. We have a change in the Senate, the way the Senate operates. And so they did a whole bunch of confirmations. I believe there were 48 of them done with one vote. So I looked at all 48 of those people. I'll let you know how many of them are Looney Tunes. There was some stupid drama, because of course there was. So I'll tell you all about that. And then I won't go on too much about the shutdown because I just did a whole episode. And but yeah, there was other stuff going on in Congress.
There will likely be more episodes about the shutdown as we move forward.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see what happens. I mean, the House is gone. That's what's so fucking wild, is the House has not been in session since like the last week of September, and Mike Johnson is not showing any signs of coming back. So I mean, if I do this in November, it might be last month in the Senate because there is no House.
They voted on the same shit a million times and everybody voted the same. Yeah.
Well, not really, because what the Senate's doing right now, while everyone is paying attention to other things, is they're doing another en bloc group of confirmations. This time there's over 100 people that they're going to confirm with one vote. So no, the Senate is still very much working. And
this was, and this was because there was, and we talked about this on the show, but there was the blockade that the Senate Republicans wound up changing the rules on, right?
Yeah.
That's what this is now the makeup for.
Yeah. And by the way, they can change the rules like this to reopen the government if they want to. The filibuster isn't like a thing they have to keep. So that's
been an interesting thing that's now been almost a Democratic talking point, that Marjorie Taylor Greene and Matt Iglesias are on the same page that like Republicans should degrade the filibuster to reopen the government, which also not my favorite, nor what I think is the most Trumpian solution to this, which is the concept of a shutdown only exists because of the recommendation of an attorney general. So Trump could just direct Pam Bondi at any moment to just say, no, you don't agree with that anymore. The point of the American attorney general is that nothing gets shut down if you can't agree to fund the government. It just gets auto CR'd. And that could just end everything.
Well, the Senate, I don't think we're aware that the Senate did vote on a bill that it was called like the End Shutdowns Forever or something act. But it would have just said if there is a lapse in appropriated funding that we go automatically to a continuing resolution.
Yeah.
Not a resolution. You wouldn't even need the resolution. It would just be continuing appropriations. This would never happen again. Yeah. And I believe 15 Republicans, all the Democrats and independents voted against it. So they like this game. Both parties are now playing it. Yeah. It's gross.
They're so horny for it.
Yeah. Fuck them all. We need to fire all these people. They're the worst.
All right. That wraps it up for us today. For Jen, Brian, and Andrew Heaton, I'm Justin Robert Young saying, we're not wrong. Everybody, or the guy who broke into my car, no clue is.
Yeah.
Dog and Pony Show audio.